Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing marriage registration and U.S. immigration. So when talking about when talking about U.S. immigration after marriage, we'd be talking about a K3, a CR1, or an IR1 visa. So the first thing to understand is marriage registration. There was a time when marriage registration here in Thailand was pretty straightforward. It could be done in a couple of days oftentimes. That's not so much the case anymore. There's added layers of complexity and formalities associated with not only proving up the foreigner's ability to marry, but also getting that documentation translated and legalized for purposes of marriage registration. It's not for lack of a better term, it's not the straightforward thing it once was. It now takes a matter of weeks to get a marriage registered. Okay, now your marriage is registered and you want to go ahead and apply for some sort of visa for your spouse. First thing to the United States. First thing to understand is the K3 visa has effectively, it's really not an overly useful option right now because the K3 in most cases is going to be what's called administratively closed. They'll basically say, look, you don't need to use this. We're not going to let you process it. I could get into the analysis on that, but long story short, I've done other videos on the K3. Basically, K3 was invented under the Life Act when there was a huge backlog for immigrant spouse visas. They created the K3 to go ahead and alleviate that. Now the thinking is that's no longer necessary. USCIS processes immigrant spouse visas quickly enough. The K3 is not necessary. So, okay, now you're dealing with the IR1 or the CR1 visa. Well, if you've just been married, you're probably dealing with the CR1 spouse visa because that is the type of visa that is going to be issued to somebody who's been married to an American less than 2 years at the time of both the visa issuance. Now, something to keep in mind is if you're married more than 2 years at the time of that person's entry, they may enter in IR1 status, notwithstanding their visa is labeled as CR1. So that's something to keep in mind. But long story short is, yeah, it is possible after the marriage is registered to go ahead and file for an American CR1 visa, and then upon entry into the United States, that foreign spouse, presumably Thai for the purposes of this video, that foreign spouse will be admitted in immigrant status, specifically in unconditional lawful, or excuse me, if under 2 years of marriage, they will be admitted in conditional lawful permanent residence into the United States. If over 2 years before entry, if over 2 years the marriage has existed, that person will enter in unconditional lawful permanent residence to the United States.